To assess how different milks and alternative liquids affect soap characteristics, I thought I'd run an experiment. I'm making a bunch of 100% coconut oil soaps, replacing 50% of the water content with a range of liquid substitutes and seeing how these additives affect the final soap. I'm Rox. Let's get cracking. I decided to use 100% coconut oil for these experiments. My reasoning is that we know 100% coconut oil soap is super cleansing, which also means it can make your skin dry. So, does adding another ingredient without adding any other fats to balance the soap make any difference, and how much? I'm starting with making the control soap. This is a basic 100% coconut oil soap made with just water. I'm using 200 grams of coconut oil, 35 grams of sodium hydroxide, which makes it slightly below 5% superfat, and 70 grams water. I'll quickly bring this up to emulsification. We're not about the prep here, we're focusing on the end soap, and bang it in the mould. As expected from 100% coconut oil, we get a nice white, waxy smooth and very firm soap. I'm cutting a few bars to try at different stages of cure. Time to try it out. So right out of mould, she's putting out. Plenty of big fat bubbles, but even giving it a proper workout, not much creaminess. Anyway, that's the control soap. Join. Today's milk is coconut milk. So, coconut milk is 18% fat and low in sugar, just 1.5%. With that, I surmise that this soap will lather pretty much the same as without the coconut milk, but the extra fat should make it gentler and maybe a tad creamier. Just adding the coconut milk to the oil before adding the lye, blending until the batter is properly emulsified, and then pouring it into the mould. This felt hard and came away from the sides of the mould when I checked if it was ready, but it was softer than it was pretending to be. It's a nice white soap, smooth, and the visual texture of the surface reminded me of the finish of silk paint. I'll get on with testing it. Well, it's bubbling less than I expected, perhaps less than the plain coconut oil soap, and this could be because of the extra super fat, not sure. However, it does get proper creamy. I like a creamy soap, though I know not everyone does, so I do like this. And afterwards my hands did feel nicely moisturised. Based on this test, I think this is going to be a really nice soap when it cures, and I'll find out when I test it again at a later date. Right, that's the coconut milk soap ticked off the to-do list. Pop in again. I'm testing cow's milk in soap today. I'm not sure why goat milk gets all the attention, because comparing the values that matter most when making soap, cow's milk looks better than goat's milk on paper. It contains both more fat and more sugar than goat's milk, and this should really contribute to lather and conditioning. I pop the milk into the oil and give it a blast with the blender. Then add the lye and whiz it up to a nice emulsion. Into the mould and off to somewhere warm to saponify. I'm unmoulding this after less than 6 hours. It's really hard and I was afraid I wouldn't be able to cut it if I left it overnight. It's a lovely smooth soap, very white, waxy, glossy and solid. Let me grab a bowl of warm water and get it tested. Because it's so hard, the outer layer needs to get thoroughly wet to solubilise a bit first, but then I'm getting profuse, medium-sized glistening bubbles, lots of them. Working the lather, it's going wonderfully creamy, so it gets my vote. Doesn't feel drying either. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this progresses as it cures. I'll test it again in a couple of weeks. Okay, so that's our cow's milk soap done. I'm testing goat's milk in soap today. Comparing the labels of goat's milk and cow's milk bought from the supermarket, so not raw and untreated, you can see looking at these panels the difference is negligible. Goat's milk and cow's milk differ more in the amounts of vitamins and minerals that are in them. But remember that heat destroys many vitamins, and any skin beneficial vitamins that do make it through the heat are going to be in such tiny percentages, which then get diluted by the water we use and then washed off our skin, so that they aren't worth talking about, and any claims about them nourishing skin are dubious. Goats just seem to have a better PR agent than cows, that's all in my opinion, and it's a great example of how our perceptions are manipulated through marketing. Anyways, enough said, let's get on with it. I pop the milk into the oil, blend it through, add the lye and whiz it up into a good emulsion. Off it goes into the mould and away somewhere safe to saponify. I'm unmoulding this after leaving it overnight. Like the cow's milk soap, it's pretty solid. It's a lovely smooth, opaque soap that's just off white in colour. Let me get my bowl of water and test this out. At this point, I can't remember the details of trying the cow's milk soap, but the goat's milk soap lathers right away with lots of medium-sized bubbles. Working up a proper lather, this easily gets nice and creamy, and my skin feels nicely moisturised afterwards. How do you think it compares to the cow's milk soap? I'm looking forward to seeing how this progresses as it cures, and I'll test it right alongside the cow's milk soap next time, in a couple of weeks after they've cured a bit. Okay, so there's the goat's milk soap. I've made barley milk to put in the soap today. It's easy to make using the same method as for rice and oat milk. For this, I'm doing 1 part cooked barley to 2 parts water. I blend that up really well and then filter out the solids. I just want 35 grams, which is 50% of the total liquid content. As a grain, barley is high in carbs and plant proteins. Just how much, I'm not sure, because I can't seem to find a nutritional profile for homemade barley milk. Barley derivatives are used in cosmetics for skin and hair, and of course it's been used forever to make beer. I think it's going to act very similar to oat milk. Just blending the barley milk in the oil, adding the lye and then whizzing it all up to a nice emulsion. It doesn't take long, and into the mould goes the batter. This is pretty solid after being left overnight for about 12 hours. It's very matte looking and kind of ecru colour. I've made barley milk soap before and I thought it was a fantastic soap, but I didn't use barley milk as a solo addition in a one oil soap, so I'm interested to try this out. Nice bubbles right away. These bubbles seem a bit smaller and more profuse than just the coconut oil control soap, and as I work it up it does lather nicely, unlike the coconut control soap, so I can only conclude that this has something to do with the barley milk. Anyways, that's barley milk. Thanks. Oat milk. I use it a lot, but I confess I've never tried it as a single addition to a one oil soap. I've got a vid on making oat milk, and I've made this using a 1:2 ratio of oats to water. Oats are high in carbohydrate and therefore sugar and protein. Oat has anti-inflammatory properties, but whether this action carries through into soap is open to debate. I'm expecting to find that oat milk adds creaminess and density to the lather. As per usual, I'm popping the oat milk into the oil, blending it in, adding the lye and whizzing it up for a minute or two to get a stable emulsion. Pour it in the mould and Bob's your uncle. After 12 hours this is very solid. The soap is smooth and creamy looking, more matte than glossy. What difference has adding the oat milk made? Let's find out. As expected, I'm getting decent bubblage right away. As it gets more soluble, it seems to me the bubbles are smaller and more profuse than just the coconut oil soap, and working this up produces more of a foam, really, of small, dense and profuse bubbles than cream. I'm liking it. Rightio, that's oat milk and soap. Cheers! I'm starting this series by using what I already have at hand, so today it's dairy cream. I'm using this extra thick double cream, which I think is called heavy cream in the States, because that's what I have in. This cream is 50% fat and 1.6% sugar, milk sugar. Theoretically, the cream will raise the super fat, making it milder, and even though it's only a small amount, the sugar might increase the lather. So I'm just adding the cream into the oil. The cream makes up 50% of the total liquid content here, the other half being the water in the lye solution. I blend that in and then add the lye, whizzing until I'm sure it's emulsified. Job done, and into the mould it goes. Saponified quickly. Not quite as white as the control soap, but you probably can't see that due to the problems I have with lighting in this space. Anyway, I cut 5 bars and I'm going to try one now. I'm already a fan of dairy cream in soap, but I've never tried it as a standalone additive in a simple 100% coconut oil based soap. This is giving out some excellent lather. I think it's making more bubbles than just the coconut oil control soap, and as I work it up to see how creamy it gets, the lather feels really silky. Nice. I'll check it again in a week or two to see if it's changed any. Okay, that's the dairy cream soap. Thanks. This time I'm trying rice milk. I've made the rice milk myself using 1 part cooked white basmati to 2 parts water, like I do with oat milk. I blended it up and filtered it to remove the solids. As it's a grain, it's high in carbs, so contains sugars which should increase lather. The fat content is negligible, so no extra super fat. I know rice milk soap is a thing, but I'm not entirely sure why. It's reputed to lighten skin, but I'm very sceptical about that claim, to say the least. So I'm just going to pour the rice milk into the oil, add the lye and blend it up to emulsion, then into the mould it goes. I thought this was harder. It's still a bit squishy around the edges as I turn it out. You won't be able to tell on camera, but it's very opaque, very matte looking in fact. On the inside where I cut it, it seems grainy in appearance, but that's probably just because I've cut it too soon. I'll let it dry off for an hour or 2 before testing this time. Okay, here we go. Well, there's some bubbles. After all, it's a coconut oil soap, but I wouldn't say it's boosted by the rice milk despite the sugar content. It's not becoming very creamy either. I'm decidedly underwhelmed, especially as right after this, when I dried my hands, my skin felt horribly dry, more so than with the straight coconut oil soap. As of now, I'm not rating rice milk, but I'm not writing it off just yet either. Have to wait and see. That's rice milk soap. Fingers crossed. In the comments, Evelyn asked whether it's true or not that egg is a great bubble booster. Well, today we're going to find out. So, eggs are packed full of nutrients. They contain fat and lots of protein, but very little in the way of sugars. So just what is it in them that supposedly increases the lather? Egg yolk contains a healthy dose of lecithin, a natural emulsifier, think mayonnaise, so maybe it's this that does the trick. I can only guess because I haven't found a definitive answer yet. I'm adding beaten egg to the oil and blending it really well. I don't want it to separate. I've cooled the lye right down to room temperature as a precaution because I don't want instant heat to scramble the egg. A minute or so of whizzing and it's emulsified enough to go in the mould. Okay, so I'm unmoulding this after just 5 hours and it's rock solid. I didn't dare leave it any longer. It's quite shiny and you might just be able to see that it's a sort of greenish colour in the middle. That'll go white when it's dried. I had a whiff and it smells pretty sulphurous right now, but undoubtedly this smell will wear off with drying. I'm excited to try it. Well, it's bubbling up a proper treat from the get-go. Just look at that luxuriant lather. This is the best lather by far so far in this experiment. Just look at it. And the way it creams up is just gorgeous. And my skin feels great too. Seeing this, I'd say egg would make a fabulous additive in a shaving soap. Based on all the results I've had so far against the control-based soap, I think it's safe to say that it is true that egg boosts lather, and this is going to be hard to beat. What do you think, Evelyn? I can't wait to see how this performs the next time I test it. So there goes the egg soap. Time to try yoghurt in some soap. Just a small amount of extra fat in this, just short of 2% and 6.5% sugar. Now, one of the natural constituents of yoghurt is lactic acid. This is what makes yoghurt taste tangy and is a result of the lactose milk sugar fermenting through bacterial activity. In soap, as you might know, lactic acid becomes sodium lactate, so I'm expecting this to contribute to the hardness of the finished soap. It might be hard to tell though, as coconut oil on its own produces a hard soap anyway. So I'm just adding the yoghurt into the oil. Again, I'm making a 50% liquid substitution, the other half being the water used to dissolve the sodium hydroxide. I'm going to blend that up, add the lye and mix up to the point where everything is emulsified. Bish bash bosh into the mould. Now this took longer to set than I expected, and I thought it would be harder than it is because of the lactic acid. Oops, ignore that. Cooking a few bars as usual, and when I give this a sniff, it smells a bit sulphurous like beer soaps do. Maybe it's something to do with the fermentation process. I don't know, but I'm curious now. I'm going to test this. Now, I think there are more bubbles than in the control soap, but they're more compact. What do you think? It creams up nicely, and I have to say, the way it leaves my skin feeling is great. A bit like the way salt soap leaves my skin feeling. Fresh, with no tackiness or sliminess to it. I love it. That's the yoghurt soap. Cheers for dropping. So I thought I'd bring you an update on the Milk's alternative liquids soaps that I made. Anyone who stumbles across this video that's not interested in soap is going to think, what a bunch of weirdos, you know, it's just soap. But if you're really interested in soap, hopefully you will find this interesting. So here's the control soap. This was just the 100% coconut oil soap, and the rest are coconut oil soaps with milks, various milks in them. So here we've got the coconut milk, this one's the yogurt, I've just scratched it on. We've got cow's milk, goat's milk, cream, egg, oat and rice. Now, when I first made these and tested them when they were straight out of the mould, I honestly can't remember much about most of them, with a couple of exceptions. All I can really remember is that I didn't like the rice milk soap, and I thought that the egg soap was fantastic. But it's been a month now, so let's test them again and see how they fare. So here, this is the control soap. We know that these soaps are going to be bubbly because they're made with 100% coconut oil. So what we're really looking at is maybe how does it improve the lather, the creaminess and the conditioning qualities, because soap, coconut oil soap just with 100% coconut oil can be quite harsh on your skin. So how do the different milks and additives temper the soap, if that makes sense? So, well, I'll just test the control for the bubbles. When I was testing the different 100% single oil soaps, it's hard to describe bubbles, you know. There are either lots of them, fewer of them, the lather could be more creamy. I'm showing you on the video so you can judge that for yourself. Hopefully, although I'm just washing my hands with all these soaps, I can hopefully tell the difference between whether one is leaving my skin feeling dry and tight or whether it's feeling nicely conditioned. Anyway, this is the Control coconut oil soap. So nice and bubbly, as we would expect. So how is that leaving my skin? It don't feel too bad actually, just on its own, but I'll dry my hands. See how they feel. Yeah. Now, when I do that, I can hear a noise. don't think my phone will be picking it up. Reminds me of that, you know, when you wash your hair and it gets that squeakiness. Similar thing with my skin. Yeah, it is. That is feeling dry. It is. Move on. Let's try one of the other soaps. Once again, in no particular order, let's try the cream soap. So this was made with like the full fat dairy cream, which is roughly 50% fat. I mean, I think you really do have to be a bit of a soap nerd to be experimenting with all these different milks. But I want to know for formulating blends in the future. So yeah. I don't know whether that's coming up less bubbly than just the pure coconut oil soap. It's so hard to tell. Let's give it a good work through and see how my skin feels afterwards and how it creams up. So yeah, nice and creamy. Dry my hands. Oh yeah, that is definitely better than the 100% coconut oil soap. My hands feel moisturised. Okay, so sticking with the dairy soaps, I suppose, I'm going to try the cow's milk soap. Right. These soaps are really firm. So this is creaming up, yeah. I actually think that's creamed up better than the actual cream soap. This is a cow's milk. Really nice and creamy. Right, and then I will dry my hands again. I suppose if I was using a sink to wash my hands in, I would totally rinse my hands with clean water. But again, yeah, they're feeling really nice and moisturised. I can feel it. No drag on there whatsoever. Okay, let's try the goat's milk. Okay, goat's milk. So getting some cream there. Nice. I don't think that creamed up quite as well as the cow's milk, but there's not a lot in it. And let's see how my hands feel. And I've dried them. Again, hands feel moisturised. Hard to know now when I'm testing them one after the other like this, and really it's the only way I can do it. It would be an absolute pain to be setting up to film over an entire day or different days of the week just to film one video, so I'm doing it all at once. But yeah, my hands feel moisturised. Good. Now let's try, we'll try the yoghurt soap next. Okay, yoghurt soap. You know, I don't feel as enthusiastic as I normally do. I'm a bit under the weather, but I apologise if I sound a bit less lively than I normally am. I'm just getting on with it. So here's the yoghurt soap. Let's test this. like those bubbles. Really nice creaminess. I'd say equal to the milk soaps. Hard to tell, as I keep saying. Let's dry my hands again. Okay. So whatever the reason, I feel as though my hands feel more conditioned by the yogurt soap than all the other soaps. Like I say, it's hard to tell when I'm just washing my hands one after the other, trying these soaps one after the other. But that feels good to me. So let's move on to the next soap. Okay, so I'm going to leave the egg soap and the rice till last, because when I first tried them straight out of the mould, I felt the rice was the worst and the egg was the best. So that leaves us with the oat milk and the coconut milk. And I think did I make barley milk? I don't know where that one is. I'll have to see if I can find it. Okay, let's try oat milk. I love using oat milk in my soaps. Obviously within a blend, like you would with any of these milks if you were using them. You'd look at your blend and how that particular milk can complement your blend. So some really nice bubbles there. Let's see what we're like with creaminess. Yep, nice creaminess. Dry my hands. How are we feeling, skin? Yes, nicely moisturised. Yeah, really nicely moisturised. So that's oat milk. I'll have to go and see if I can find the missing barley milk soap. Here we are, the barley milk soap. Very easy to miss one when they pretty much all look the same. I think the one that looks the most different is the egg soap, slightly different colour. Okay, barley milk. Let's try this. Nice and bubbly, as we would expect. Yeah, it's going creamy. Maybe not as creamy as some of the others, but creamy all the same, and it feels nice and velvety. Okay, nice and conditioned, no dryness there whatsoever. Okay, let's move on. Okay, coconut milk soap. Let's try this. Nice and bubbly. Okay, it creams up. I don't feel that cream is quite as luxuriant as some of the other creams from the milk soaps. Let's dry my hands. Yeah, it feels good, and I wouldn't expect anything else because coconut milk contains some coconut fat still to add a bit of extra super fat. They feel great. My skin feels great. Okay, so rice milk soap. Now, last time I felt this made my skin feel pretty dry, but let's try it now. It is creaming up very kind of thinly. It's not great. It's, you know, there's a little bit of cream there, but nothing to write home about. Okay, so I'll dry my hands. Right, okay. So my opinion of the rice milk soap still remains. I'm not happy with it. I don't think the rice milk is adding a great deal to this soap. Maybe it would in larger quantities, maybe it would with a different balance of oils, but for the purposes of this experiment, I'm not rating it, but that's just my opinion. Okay, let's try the egg soap, finally. So I've just had a few moments when I've been changing the water to try the final soap, which is the egg soap, and the rice milk soap. No, my skin's draggy. I know there's loads of people out there that are devoted to rice milk soap. Based on this experiment, I probably won't use rice milk in a soap ever again. I don't personally, this is my opinion based on this experiment here, it's not really adding anything. My skin is really draggy and that is going to be dry. So anyway, let's try the egg soap. Now last time this was really creamy, that was straight out of the mould. This was really creamy but with really luxurious lather, and nice and bubbly too, so we're getting bubbles. Yeah, and let's see if it creams up. Yeah, so out of all of the dairy soaps, I'm including egg in that, this one has what I would say is, this one has, in my opinion, the densest lather, and because of this, I think it would make a really good addition to a shaving soap. I think I said that last time. I'm going on a bit, but I mean, look at that. That is absolutely fantastic. I don't know what it is about the egg that's making that lather, but that lather is absolutely phenomenal. But how does my skin feel when I wash this off? Okay. Yeah, nicely conditioned, really nicely conditioned. So that's them all tested. And what are my final thoughts? My final thoughts are this, that adding milks into your soaps, whether that be plant milks or dairy milks, is worth it. I think the dairy milk soaps definitely have more creaminess, and the egg soap is phenomenal. I think the plant milk soaps, the oat, the barley and the coconut milk are nice and creamy, nice and conditioning. The only one I've got an issue with is the rice milk soap. That's my opinion based on this experiment. I don't know whether I'll be testing these again. I'm not sure how they would change any further the longer that they cure, because it's just a coconut oil soap and we're testing the milks. I'm not sure that they would improve so much over time as the 100% oil soaps or Castile soap does. So yeah. My final opinion is that yes, it is worth putting milks into your soaps, all except the rice milk soap. Hate on me if you like with the rice milk, but that's my opinion. Anyways, I'm off to see what other mischief I can get up to now. See you later. Bye bye.